welcome to another episode of the AE86 Racing Channel. I'm your host, Joshiroku, and today I'm going to introduce you to my other AE86, the V8 hatch. I kind of feel it's important to give you guys a little brief history about this car. It's been in my possession for quite some time. I bought this car, I would say roughly about 2002, maybe 2003. I got it off of eBay. It had an in-op 20 valve swap in it, and it was an early swap. They had smashed the firewall in pretty good, and it kind of started and ran, but that was about it. It had some good parts on it. I drug it home from Wisconsin, I believe it was, that I got the car, and from there, you know, I dove into it. Bought a bunch of really nice JDM parts, which you could afford back then. And this was my first foray into standalone ECUs. So when I did this car, I found a guy on a local forum that could build a harness. It turned out to be a 6-month nightmare. It was on a Mega Squirt MS1 V3, where it used the Ford Etis crank trigger system. And it did work eventually. I spent a lot of time and money on it to make probably like 130 horsepower. I had autocrossed the car, and then I was fortunate enough to be in the right place to where I got a feature in Super Street. So the car was a feature car in Super Street, and not long after that, I sold the car. I had started to get into high-speed events with the Porsche Club, and I was actually tracking an EG6 Civic with a JDM B16, and I contacted the fellow that I sold the car to, and he agreed to a trade. So I drug the Civic all the way back up to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and traded straight up to get the car back. I brought the car home. I stripped the 20 valve, all the JDM stuff out of it, all the really the keen wheels and everything that I had on it that you'll see in the pictures. And then the plan was to put a F20C in it, and this was a long time ago. That didn't work out. So what I ended up doing was finding a fella out in the Midwest, Kyle, and I saw that he had a coupe with a Lexus 1UZ V8, and you know, he was kind enough to talk to me through emails and everything, and that's the route that I went. So, you know, I got the car back. I've done the swap and everything, and I'd say about 2009, 2010, I started tracking it again here locally in Texas at various road racing events, and it was around that time in 2014 that I decided to go to my first Global Time Attack event, and that was at Road Atlanta. And after that, I was hooked. I mean, it really kind of changed the game for me personally. The car had been pretty successful. I had used it trouble-free. You know, the V8 swap worked really well in the chassis, and it was really easy to maintain because it wasn't really taxed a whole lot. And then the next time I went out to an event was in 2015 at NOLA, and that was a fantastic event. In fact, I was able to get a podium. It's my only podium with Global Time Attack, and I know this isn't a very big trophy, but it sure means a lot to me, and it was really cool that I was able to accomplish that with, you know, this little 250 horsepower 80s Toyota. So that's pretty cool. I was happy with that. So, you know, if you know me or you're following me, you know that I've got the coupe with the F22 in it, and you know that I've been doing the super lap battle with that car, and you know that I've broken it on both occasions. Out of frustration, I had decided to bring this car back out, update it, fix everything, give it the maintenance that it needed, so that I could use this to continue to get seat time, because ultimately I will break the car at super lap, and then I will sit on my ass for the entire year trying to scrape together the money to fix the car and hopefully sort it out and solve the problems. So this time I decided, well, this car used to work, so I'm just gonna go ahead and update it and bring it back and get it back to where it's track ready. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and take the camera off the pod, and then I'm gonna walk you around. I'm gonna show you what parts are on the car, go over the car, and then at the end here, I've got a little footage. We went to the track a few weeks ago, and I got to shake the car down a little bit again, and hopefully stay to the end for some track action. All right, here we are. This is the Lexus 1UZ powered V8 AE86 hatch. I'll just go around exterior wise like I did in the other video and try to give you a rundown of the parts that are in the car. As you can see, it's got JDM kooky bumpers on it. Again, I bought all this stuff back when I could go to the local Toyota dealer and just order the bumpers, and they even didn't even charge me for shipping. They just showed up at the dealership back in the day. So like on the other car, I run CBY fender flares. I find that they make the best flare for the aggressive wheel offsets that I tend to run. On this particular car, both of them actually, I'm kind of currently on these Natanabes in a 15x10 -25. I know that these are not as exciting as the Longchamps that I just had on the car recently, but for track use and brake dust and everything else, I just decided that this was the better way to go. It's a little more expendable wheel. As you can see, I've also got the FC caliper on this car. You know, I'm running a Ray Bestos ST45 in the front, and currently in the back I've got a Carbotech SP8, and I will tell you the Ray Bestos is a much more aggressive pad, and I'm currently kind of having some teething issues. In fact, at this last track event, I flat spotted the shit out of this RS4s, which I will have to buy a couple of more since the vibration is going to be quite bad. Underneath the car, I know it's impossible to see, but you know, I've got T3 control arms, T3 in links, and of course their rear control arms, all with the Heim joints and everything. Suspension wise, on this particular car, I'm actually running a Stance GR Plus in a 10 and a 6, I believe. It's been quite some time since I've spec'd those out, but hopefully in the near future I'll be able to swing annex suspension for this car as well. I know this carbon fiber hood is tired, y'all. Twice I have forgotten to latch the hood on this car, only to have it smash into the windshield. So rather than purchase another hood, I decided to make this heat extractor, and took it to a buddy that does circle track cars, and he made that out of aluminum, and then I just cut a big ass hole in the hood and said, all right, well, and it's worked really well to keep the car cool. Right, so of course I've got Redline tail lights on the car. Again, purchased those back whenever they weren't crazy. If you know anything about the 1UZ, you'll get this joke. Apex Quad Cam 32. Instead of a 16 valve, I've got these little Keen spring-loaded latches for the hatch. And the hatch is actually one of my favorite pieces on this car, just because it's OEM TRD racing parts. I know that's upside down. If you stand on your head, you'll probably get a better view of it. Inside the car, it's fairly sparse. I've got the battery over here, obviously, to keep the weight distributed. It closes. That is Lexan. I run the 245 40 15 Hankook RS4s. I also have the other set of tires that I run off the coupe, which is the Yokohama AE52 that you have to run in Global Time Attack. Hey, what up, Taka? So this car, you know, part of the reason I built the coupe was just because the car was so nice. It had a full interior, and I didn't really want to gut it out and cage it. So, you know, I retired it. So the last time this car was on the track was in 2016 at Circuit of the Americas. A question I do get a lot is people ask me, hey, which car is faster? After looking at the footage that I have, which I'll have a little clip, it's just that the wind noise is terrible. It turns out that the F22 powered coupe is faster by a few seconds. Now, some of that's down to the fact that it was my first time at COTA in this car, and the other is going to definitely be the suspension, tires, and weight. Power to weight ratio of the other car is outstanding, and it was indeed faster. So pretty standard AE86 stuff. I've got the factory cluster and everything in here. This car does have a stereo and everything in it. I try to keep it fairly usable for the street. I am currently sitting my butt in this Corbeau FX1. This is a very affordable seat that fits my fat ass. And I, just like in the other car, I use the Roth Clubman's. Shout out to Garage Star, who I think makes absolutely the best seat bracket for this chassis. It gets the seat nice and low to where I have room for my helmet. And then I recently added this T3 harness bar for the seats. I know a lot of people hate harness bars, but this thing is outstanding the way that it mounts to the chassis. It's very rigid, and the fit and finish on it are outstanding. Car still has the factory seats in it on the passenger and in the rear. Pretty much just a stock car. So for the 1UZ, you can use a couple of different transmissions. On this one, I use the W58. I have this cube speed shifter from Australia, and man, what a huge improvement that made over the factory W58 shifter. Even with new bushings, it is nothing compared to this shifter from the guys over at Cube Speed in Australia. So thank you guys for making such a bitchin' product. All right. There's a little quick garage pan. I've got a lot of talented friends that love to make me cool shit. As you see, this is some of the homemade aero that I have. Nice thing about having the same chassis is that I can run the same aero on both cars. A collection of front splitters. This one is birch, of course, you know, and it's of my design. So let's get under the hood here. Oh, there you go. Just all right, so this is a factory stock 95 LS 400 engine. This one has the skinnier rods. I do believe it is rated at about 260 on paper. The last time this car was dynoed, it made 250. I can't tell you how accurate that dyno was. It was a really long time ago, but it's good enough for me. So I had recently just went through and did timing belt, water pump, fixed a bunch of oil leaks, recoated the gas, the headers, and it's pretty simple. It fits in here actually really nicely. I made the motor mounts and everything to fit this engine into this chassis. My buddy Rowdy Flanagan at Flanagan's Mufflers built me a really nice set of custom headers years and years ago when I first did the swap. It runs on the factory ECU. I don't really have any way to interface with it because I never wired up an OBD port, so it could have every conceivable check engine light, and I don't really know it, but the car performs well and hasn't really given me any reason to think otherwise. Cooling is done with the Joshiroku radiator tucked here underneath the front, and I've got oil cooler and remote mount and some other stuff here. As you see, I've got some ducts that are built into it to try to help keep it cool, and it's worked pretty well. I recently went back to a coolant mixture and it did get a little warm, so we're gonna go back to the old distilled water and water wetter, and hopefully that'll bring it down about 10 to 15 degrees at the end of the session, which will keep me happy. So on both cars, I run this Wilwood adjustable brake proportioning valve with the 13/16 master cylinder. This allows me to dial in some brake bias since I've got the 4-pot Mazda RX-7 FC calipers up front, and you know, that's a pretty basic overview of what I've got in the car. You know, I don't really have any additional chassis stiffening or anything like that other than the harness bar, and you know, I mean, it's just a simple machine, and it is an absolute blast to drive. Again, I always like to thank all those people that helped me out. Garage Star, T3, my buddy Jake that built the transmission adapters, Spence over at Weir Performance, who provides my differentials and all the work to keep these things going, and my family for giving me 100% support to chase these ridiculous dreams, and all of you nice people out there in internet land that follow along. So again, it's greatly appreciated. I know it's been quite some time since the last video, so we are gonna wrap this up, and I will go ahead and edit up this video with the track footage from Eagles Canyon Raceway. I did have some heating issues. I did flat spot the tires, and I found the track to be challenging, and I need to go back and get some more seat time over there. But for now, this is the introduction to the other AE86. We're gonna go ahead and finish up and try to get some action in this video. Again, thank you for following along. Like and subscribe. It helps me, and I appreciate everybody, and I hope to see you at a track event soon. Thanks for watching.